All right, welcome to the Design Build Show. I'm here with my good friend Colin Hand.
Hi, how's it going?
We've had a bit of a hiatus, so thank you very much for getting us back on track with the Design Build Show. We're here at the Union Restaurant. Is that what it's called? Union Restaurant in Newton. Great restaurant.
Newton Center,
in Newton Center. And the purpose of this show is really just to educate people on design build. Historically, the architect built, and so historically things were design build. I'd say about 90% of the people out there that I talk to are not even aware of it, and have the idea that the architect and builder are separate, and that's the way it's always been, but it has not been. That's really not the case, and design build is really just getting back to the way it has been for the majority of history. So Colin works for Blade of Grass, and Blade of Grass is an amazing landscape company, design build landscape company. We've had the good fortune to collaborate with them on several projects. The first one going back probably eight years or so.
8 years.
Yeah. And
almost a decade.
yeah. And you know, he's got a baby face. So 8 years ago, but even more so, right? But I actually, just the way, I think, do you remember, I thought you were the owner of the company. I just assumed he was, just the way he carried himself, the level of responsibility he took for the projects. He really just took ownership for it, and he does an amazing job. And so, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into the industry?
Just to elaborate on that, I think that one of the things that we think is really important in Blade of Grass is that everyone kind of takes ownership of these projects. They're personal in nature, because one of the things we were talking about that's great about design build is that you're there through an extended process and with these projects a long time. So if you don't treat them with that seriousness,
you do own it.
You own it.
You do own the
there.
job, right?
So
there's nobody to point the finger at, right?
No, there's nobody to point the finger at, and you got to be. It's a good thing to be thinking about how your thoughts translate into reality, and that's a grounding thing for somebody who started off in the design world more than the design build.
So how did you start off?
So I was originally on a track to become a landscape architect.
Okay.
That's what my schooling was in. Good old UMass, go Minutemen. But once I graduated in a fortunate year, 2008, and you had to be kind of crafty to figure out where your place was in the working world in the middle of that recession. And I had been working with Jim, the owner of Blade of Grass, through school during the summers doing maintenance on gardens.
Oh, cool. And
they were starting off doing some of the build projects in-house.
So you graduated from...
Yes.
What was your degree?
So I have a master's in landscape architecture.
Oh, okay, cool.
And we started off doing some patio work and some plantings, and it's blossomed from that 3-man crew and a bobcat and a dump truck. We're all the way up to 7 or 8 crews at any one time installing landscapes.
Wow.
So
awesome.
What really got me hooked is that before I started doing the design and build portion, all the people I talked to that were working in these architecture firms or had been working in them were talking about how it was a really big bummer to spend a portion of your energy in your life dedicated to a project that never gets greenlit.
Oh, wow.
Design build, you go into a project with the intent to build it,
right? And
you're going to see your results. That's inspiring. That's transformative for somebody who loves design. But it really lets you get your hands dirty. That's the
totally.
It's literally in landscaping.
we just had lunch, and this didn't come up, but now I think we're going to spend the rest of the show on it, which is the point you just brought up, which is very common. I want to get the percentage. I want this to be tracked and surveyed, and I want to know the percentage of in architecture that does not build. Whether it's landscaping or homes, which is what we do, what's the percentage that go on the shelf versus get executed? I mean, I'm just guessing, but you said that was one of the things, because I hear it too in our part of the industry. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be this amazing project, but it didn't happen. And I hear that, I'm like, because what's the percentage of your projects that get executed?
So once people agree to do design work with us, our hit rate's between 90 and 95%.
Yeah, it's very high.
So
it's like they we've never had a client pass away, knock on wood, and so, but it's like something major happens where it's like, and for me the reason is like, it's very simple. It's like that's a dichotomy. Like that's a difference, and the difference is the mindset. Right. The difference is it's not just the mindset. Like, obviously these architects want the project to be built, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But it's they actually don't have the full skill set to be able to set up a project for success, right? Like, they don't know what things cost. So they're and this is a generality. It's not true for all architects, right? But generally, it is. I think it is like,
if you're drawing up a fixed bid contract to do a project, you're gonna know how things cost. You're gonna have your pulse on what materials costs are, what labor costs are, and you're gonna want to build in those conversations from the very beginning, because the most beautiful design in the world that fits a site perfectly still has to come in underneath those budget constraints. Yeah. And really, it's the first spot that we would encourage people to start thinking, so that we're not going to go down a rabbit hole, which is frustrating for the homeowner, especially because they have a time frame in their mind, and spending 6 weeks on a concept that has no grounding in a budgetary reality is not benefiting anyone.
Right. I mean, and we're responsible for it, right? So we're not gonna, whereas an architect is really, they're just getting hired to design, and so they're not responsible for the build, and so they're not responsible for the cost, and so anything they communicate, like, there can be an intention or a budget goal, but there's no accountability behind that, and that's problematic. It's problematic. And also, I think a big part of it is, like, and a huge benefit of design build for us is getting to set up the project while we're designing it. And you guys have trades. I think we probably have more trades. Yep. But that collaboration is very much design build. Like, we're having our plumber and our electrician and our HVAC contractor and any specialty tradesman we need to consult on in the design. That makes it's like we're setting it up. It's like a similar thing there, whereas an architect doesn't have those resources.
Right. And I mean, we're looking at it from the aspect of you're catering to all the homeowners' needs, because we're mostly residential. You're dealing with usually a handful of people at most, so their needs are first and foremost going to be, this is going to be feasible. It's like they trust us to come up with a recipe that satisfies all those cravings. They want something beautiful. They want something that's built in an amount of time that's reasonable, and they want to know that their costs are controlled. We all want that in anything we're going into.
Yeah, it's a factor.
So,
I mean, I want to. If anybody's watching this and you know where to find this information, like, is it 50%? I want to know if this is tracked anywhere. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that might be a sore subject.
Yeah, right.
Because I see, you never want somebody to roll out these beautiful plans and just be like, they're just covered in dust because nothing ever came to it.
Yeah.
And I was speaking a lot from people who work not necessarily solely residential.
Yeah.
Because I think that,
right, where it's more,
I think that we even when you separate design build, you know, the residential field has a little bit more of a, they go in knowing it's going to have something developed. You know, there's none of these feasibility. I mean, you very rarely have somebody do a feasibility design on a landscape. You know, it's happened. Somebody might want to buy a house and see what they can do. And, but you know, usually it's let's get a design together. Let's work a budget. Let's pick finishes and let's go. You know, so that's
Yeah, right. Like when it's a larger project, there might be boards involved.
Yes.
You know, some sort of
more people who can ice pick it.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But yeah, I would love to know that too, because it was one of the things, you know, as a young, you know, moldable mind that drove me to this direction, because, you know, I want to see my efforts come to life.
Yeah.
To see that they're enjoyed and used. Yeah. That's a huge part of it. Yeah. Like, you know, I when I'm putting a pencil to paper, that's the goal, is that somebody's going to smile at it when it becomes 3D. Right. You know, they're going to be in that space.
Yeah, not smile at the piece of paper.
Yeah, not be like, oh, that's colored really nicely. Yeah, that's a really nice rendering. It's like, I'm out there every Friday night enjoying my patio because it's so beautiful, and it takes my stress down. Those are the types of things that I got in this business for.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of another industry where it is separated like as much as in the past 150 years as it has been, because, you know, the actual product is the actual space, right? It's not the drawings. And so, you know, if you just think of a chef, right? A chef who only wrote recipes, like it doesn't exist, you know? Or,
it's a great analogy, actually.
Yeah. You mean in the training of a chef, it would be like an architect doesn't build. Like I went to school for architecture. I didn't know how to build. That was the thing when I started to work as an architect. I was like, wait, I'm gonna tell this guy how to build, and I've never built before. It's just like completely didn't make sense. It'd be like a chef never having cooked and just writing the recipes, you know?
See, I was lucky. We actually had one class where, actually we had a couple, but it was taught by a landscape architect who had a design build.
Oh, cool.
Mike Davidson at UMass, and he was really, really smart in explaining to all of us early on in our academic career that trace paper only is so much of this profession. You can have layers and layers of trace, you can think it all through, but if you don't know what bolt goes to what, you know, and you know, you have a failure point.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to know how it's built, and you know, he really let us know, and I gravitated towards it, that, you know, there's a whole other half of this that needs to be baked into your train of thought.
Did that inspire you to do the summers? Or
it kind of did, yeah.
At Blade of Grass,
yeah, it did. I wanted to see how things were getting put together. I think it helped me become a better designer. That's the flip side of it. You know, it's like when you know how things are put together at the small scale, when you're working with your crews that are installing these things, you learn so much more than you could from studying plans and blueprints. You know, the best laid plans always need to be rewritten once you hit the ground. I think I don't remember what famous general said that. It might have been Eisenhower or something. But you know, it's like you can plan to the nth degree. There's you know, the variabilities of once it goes to construction. I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's just natural, you know, that somebody's going to see it. They're going to see it a different way. They could be looking at it in a better way. And oftentimes your crews that are building it have those ideas. Go ahead. And you know, being design build, that is a huge benefit, because I can call up my you know, any one of our project managers on site. We know our vernacular. You know, we're all working towards the same goal in multiple ways. There's you know, you just get so much more from that interaction than, you know, you being satellite from each other. Yeah, there's a connection there and a you know, continuous you know, motion.
it's one entity still, right?
You know, our practical knowledge as designers grows, and the eyes of our crew, I've noticed as they've stayed with us, become more in tune to the aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing.
There's
to
a
see.
loop there, right?
There is.
Yeah.
There's a feedback.
Because design build could be one guy or one woman who designs it and then builds it.
Right.
But it's a bit limiting in terms of how much you can execute in that fashion. But you know, our companies are more. You know, we have specialists in certain positions, but there's a you know, a string that continues on, wherein you know there's handoffs.
Yeah.
But and that's a crucial thing for us, just that handoff. You know, our
It's where you
project
lose the
manager-
relay race.
Yeah,
Is on the
yeah,
handoff.
yeah, right. Seriously, and you know, for us, we want to get our project manager before they start to know the project like better than the designer. Like they've torn it to pieces. Our you know, our package that we turn over, so that they're fully prepared and they know the project just as well, and they can go to the client and show that. You know, when you were just talking about the you know, the installers, we were having lunch. You mentioned, and I'd never thought of this before, but with like a mason, you guys do a lot of masonry,
Yes,
right?
we do. Yep.
And just the artistry involved in that, right? Because you can, you know, plan out the wall, but then when it comes time to actually like take the pieces of stone and build it, like there's some artistry there.
Oh,
right?
there definitely is. And you know, one of the, you know, while we were talking, I was saying, you know, the designer's the inventor, and the installers, for us being masons, are the artisans. They're the craftsmen. They're the one who can take it on a micro scale and make it beautiful. You know, you can detail out a wall, but when you go to pick through that pile of rocks, I can't do it. It always blows my mind. These guys can go and look at a stone and with a couple hammer blows make a perfect piece that has seams that fit tightly on four sides.
Yeah. Wow.
And you know, that is artistry.
Yeah.
You know, it may be a lot of physical labor, but there's no less art in what they're doing than what the designer's doing. And you know, when all those people are collaborating and communicating, that is a huge strength of design build. You know, what is it? The classic sum of the parts is greater than the whole. And you know, you're taking you know, people who can build, people who can design, and for us too, people who then nurture and maintain these landscapes. And they're all
That was the third part, right?
Yeah. So you know, there's three parts for us because we like to always think of ourselves as a design, build, maintain company, because you know, the maintenance is going to be there longer than anybody else was on site.
Yeah.
And for them to be cued into what the design goals are and how things are built really allows these living landscapes, because we deal with a lot of plantings in addition to the masonry, are growing to their full potential after the designers kind of put the pencil and trace away, and you know, the masons are on to the next job. You have people that understand, you know, what it takes to get this plant to become a beautiful form, how to take care of, you know, it sounds silly, but like a lawn, you know, it's one of the bigger things you see in a design, and to make sure that that's cared for.
Yeah, I mean, it reduces the variabilities too, right?
Yeah.
If you designed it, you installed it, well, you know, in the maintenance, it's like you know what you're dealing with there, and the client has that, you know, they don't have to go find somebody else who's, you know, not familiar with it and what have you.
But also, it's the same thing we were just talking about with the, you know, the install crews. If they're working with, and in a lot of cases in our companies, friends with the designers, you know, they have an investment in seeing each other succeed.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, and not trying to be negative about the other construction methods, but there's no finger pointing that a homeowner sees when you're dealing with, you know, everyone from the same company, but also from the same cultural aspect, because every company's got a different way they look at things. You know, you're getting a united front.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's one of the things. Even when our jobs don't go perfectly, not all of them do go perfectly.
It'd be really hard to do.
But
that.
I am always, and the client may not even know it, but it's just a point of pride for me, like that we're taking care of it.
Yeah.
Like this client's never gonna have to, there might be an issue, but it's like we're gonna handle it, and they're not stuck in between, this, two entities and what have you, in which then it's their problem. It's like something we can take on.
That's probably the best thing you can ever reply to a customer service problem with is, we're going to take care of it.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't, not even I know what it is. We're going to find out what it is, and we're going to take care of it. And, that is so crucial to a successful business.
Yeah. Now, this isn't the way it should be, right? Because our projects have been very collaborative in terms of, we're typically, get together in the design phase, but you were mentioning it's not uncommon for you to kind of come in on the tail end of a construction project to take care of the landscaping, and so you have a unique perspective in that. What do you see in terms of separate from the landscaping?
Right.
These people just built a home or did a major project, in terms of the method in which it is executed, whether it's a separate architect and builder or a design build. Like, do you notice a difference or differences there?
So I find that it's funny, we were talking about this, is that the sometimes, there's many people who have a successful dynamic with the architect separate than the builder and the landscaper.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can link that back and you can see that those groups work together.
Totally.
So
they're design build.
They're design build.
Like, even though they're separate,
tax-ID
they have the mentality.
Yeah.
They have the
So-
mentality of like being outside themselves.
But it's
100%. I agree with that.
all those positives that they gain are from operating in sort of a pseudo design build methodology.
Yeah.
Like, they know how they work together.
Yeah.
I'm sure the architect has a relationship with the builder so that he can
Yeah.
get some
Yeah.
costs going
Yeah.
sooner than
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
The landscape designer or architects have been brought in sooner so that they can kind of see how the house is sited and voice their opinions on any potential, issues that might be caused by how the house is sitting on the site. Sometimes I've been on sites where nobody's thought to the elevation of the foundation. And we show up on site and there's a drainage issue, and the builder said, I poured it where it was supposed to be. The architect says, well, the house is being built the way I drew it, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, somebody needs to solve this drainage problem for us, and well, it's outside now, it's on the landscape designer and architect's problem, where it's like maybe there was a better solution earlier on rather than forcing something on so maybe it might have been the best place to cite it, but that's an example. I think there's a lot of situations, unfortunately, where a house build or a house remodel is probably going to be one of the most stressful things that one of our clients goes through in their life. I like to think of it as we're dealing with probably the only investment emotionally and financially that is anywhere close to family.
Right.
They're not probably close for most people, but if you went to tier 2, it's going to be my house.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of emotions there, and one of the things that becomes really challenging for any homeowner is they're not the experts, and all of a sudden they're stuck in the middle trying to pick a side.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've seen that happen a few times. I'm not going to say any examples. I mean, and what ends up happening is they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So they're going to divorce themselves from the most problematic portion, or the one that they need the least. And unfortunately, when a house is being built, who's more important to that process being completed? It's going to be the builder. So I think that that's a potential situation that I've seen that is not a good side of the alternative to design build. I don't know if we want to coin a methodology here. the A-B.
Oh, like design bid build.
Design bid build. Okay.
Yeah. That's the other.
DBB.
Yeah. Right.
And there's there's that portion of it. There's also, you know, when I've seen builders end up having to be the guardians of the purse strings on projects because they got the contract. And they know that they have to come in under a certain budget, and they have to start redesigning in motion, because you're gonna, you know, there's always going to be some contingency. You hit ledge, something like that, that eats up a portion of the budget. So the builder is then working with the client to redesign, only for no other reason than the homeowner doesn't want to spend more money on some redesign.
Right.
Normally, when we have something like that come up in house and we have to switch gears, there's no new design cost. The designer's out on site with the installers, and we find out a workaround that either stays within budget, or if it's an improvement,
That's
a little
awesome.
bit of a change order.
Yeah.
So, and that always happens. I don't see how you could design something so well
Right.
that you wouldn't have to have that conversation. And I think it's unfortunate for some of the architects, because I know they'd love to be on site to help out
Right.
with these decisions, but
They're a little disconnected at that point.
But they're disconnected at that point for various reasons. And I've had architects say they go back to a house after it's been built just on a whim, and they don't recognize some of the things that have happened.
Right. Yeah.
And who knows why that happened, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think...
Hope that was a little roundabout answer. But.
No, you did. And then, you see things now with like construction managers on bigger projects, but even in, where companies that they just build, there's these like design build hybrids that are kind of becoming very popular now, particularly in residential, where it's like the architect or the client brings on their builder at the same time as the architect, so there is that collaboration and people working together, and that is very much design build, where it's just this mentality of making sure all the parts of the puzzle are accounted for, because most architects today are not able to. They're not trained. They're just missing skills. That's like, I know it because I was there. And design build is really a way to like, and there can be design build companies that are not great, right? And it's like there's a bit of like, it's a popular thing now, so I feel like everybody's calling themselves design build.
Right.
But you really want to look at like, what is the person's track record, and it's just this, what is the person's accountability and level of responsibility for a project.
And also, I mean, I think the other thing when you're looking at it like that, because I do think that in the landscape sector, there's a lot of people who can just say, "Oh, I design."
Right. Sure.
Well, how's show me a grading plan. I don't do that. But you're designing it. That's the third dimension. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that where are we going to go with this? Basically, sort of lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Well, it's 28 minutes in. That's not too bad for the first lost train.
And we were only 20 minutes. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that gets down to the point what you were saying about there's the hybrid. I think that what I would say is where everyone needs to get is you got to understand your partner on a project. And I think everyone strives to have a good partnership with their clients. If you don't, that's the first thing you should work on. Go to it and get some work on that. But the second thing is for us, our partners for building are right next door in the next office.
Right. Yeah.
But if you have an architect or a builder who knows the value of having those people involved.
Yeah, great architects, great builders. They want that. They want the collaboration, right? And they don't call themselves builders, but they'll be like, hey, we should get this builder involved early, because they can consult, and great builders want a great architect on early on, so that they can design, because they don't have the skill. They're not calling themselves designers, because they're not. They can't. They don't have that skill set to just imagine and create this amazing project.
And I think learning about the install side has it gives its own set of headaches, because now all of a sudden something that designers don't have to think about as much, schedule, budgeting become your realities, and those are very emotional topics for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's knowing that stuff and heading it off and being really honest on those fronts at the very beginning eliminate those headaches, and you can't speak to those knowledgeably without being interfacing with your builders.
Yeah.
Or having them right next door, which we're fortunate to have.
Yeah.
Because I look at something sometimes and say, oh, it's about a week's worth of work, and my head of construction looks at me and says, you know what, Colin, that's nice, but probably gonna need a couple extra days.
Yeah.
Oh, why? And then he explains to me like, oh, there's access over here. A number of things that I look at in 2D or even in a sectional drawing and aren't available at the front of my mind to say.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, appreciate you being
it's
on
been
the
great.
show.
Yeah, it's fun.
Any parting words?
Stay safe and design build.
That's right. It's just a less riskier proposition.
Yeah.
And whether it is true design build like our companies, or there's you have separate entities, but the collaboration is there from the beginning. You just want to make sure you have all those components of a successful project being tracked from the get-go, because they may not be. And you may not know until it's too late. All right. Thank you.
Hey.